हरे कृष्णा। Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, page number 8. What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior Prakriti. Inferior nature. The living entity is explained as a superior Prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of the wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Apareyam etastva anyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam. This material nature is my inferior Prakriti, but beyond this is another Prakriti, Jiva Bhutam, the living entities. Material nature itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and preview of the eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I'm a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I'm an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. This is called karma. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, the eternal time, and karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, and material nature and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false, it's accepted as real but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season which nourishes the grains. As soon as the rainy season is over and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. So that was the page number 8 of the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. There are 3 paragraphs, and the major points discussed here are that Lord says that there are two, he has inferior nature and a superior nature. Lord, the inferior nature of the Lord consists of the material world and the jivas, the living entity. So we are the living entity, so we belong to the Prakriti. We are Prakriti, and Prakriti is the inferior nature, the material nature. Prakriti also has two aspects. One is the superior Prakriti and one is the inferior Prakriti. The inferior Prakriti is the material world, meaning the world of bricks and stones and inanimate objects. That is the inferior Prakriti. The superior Prakriti consists of us living entities. We are animate. But both the inferior Prakriti and the superior Prakriti are controlled by the Lord, because Lord is the Purusha, the masculine, the man. Just as in marriage, the husband controls the wife, similarly, the Purusha, the supreme Purusha controls the female Prakriti. And in Prakriti, there are two aspects, inferior and superior. So both are controlled by the Lord. So in chapter 7, Lord himself says that the material nature is my inferior Prakriti, and beyond that there is a superior Prakriti, which is the Jivas. The material world in nature is consisting of three modes: Sattva, Raja and Tamas. Sattva stands for the mode of goodness, Raja stands for the mode of passion, and Tamas stands for the mode of ignorance. Entire material world is made up of these three modes. One way to understand it is, since I'm an artist, I can give an example of colors. There are three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. These are primary colors because these cannot be manufactured. You have to have these three basic colors. But with those basic colors, you can mix and make millions of colors in different shades and tones and tints. We can make innumerable shades if you have the three basic colors. Similarly, there are three basic modes of material nature: the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And everything in the material nature, every living entity, has different combinations of these three modes. One person may have more of the goodness, like say 70% goodness, 20% passion, and 1% ignorance. Or somebody may be having 90% ignorance and 5% passion, 5% goodness. So nobody is completely good or completely bad. Everybody is a combination of these three modes of material nature. And then Prabhupada mentioned about the five aspects, which I said in the previous video: Ishvara, the Supreme Lord; Jiva, the living entity; Prakriti, or the material nature; Kala, the eternal time; and Karma, the action. These are the five things that's explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Of these five things, four are eternal. They are Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, and time. These four things are eternal. And what is not eternal, what is temporary, is the action. Our actions make us suffer or make us enjoy. Like a pendulum, we oscillate one side. Prabhupada gives the example of a businessman. If he has made a great profit, he enjoys. And then the next day he makes a huge loss, he moves to the other side and he suffers. So he oscillates between suffering and enjoyment. Why? Because he is bound by his action. We will know more about this in the forthcoming videos, but understand that our karma is temporary. What we are suffering now or what we are enjoying now is a result of our past karma, and that's temporary, that's going to change. And the other thing that's mentioned here, it is the material nature. Material nature. Now, this is where the Gaudiya Vaishnavism or the Vaishnava philosophy completely differs from the other philosophies of the so-called Hinduism. The other philosophies say that the material world is the Advaita philosophy, for example, says that the material world is false. But here clearly Srila Prabhupada refutes that. Material world is not false. It is true, it's real, but it's temporary. And an example of the cloud is given. Just as a cloud that moves through the sky, One moment you look at the sky and you say, oh, it's a cloudy day because you find the sky is full of clouds. But after some time you look at the sky, it is bright and sunny. It's a clear sky. There's no cloud there. So was that cloud false? No, it wasn't false. It was real. At that time, the cloud was in the sky and that cloud was very real. But it is temporary. It's moving. It's there one moment and it's gone the other moment. Similarly, the material nature is temporary. Samsara. Samsara means one that keeps on moving. Samsarati. It keeps on moving. Nothing is permanent. It's there now, it's gone tomorrow. Even the buildings, everything. It's there today, it's gone tomorrow. So you can't say it's false. That's a big difference between the Vaishnava philosophy or the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and the other philosophies. The material world, the material nature is very much a part of God's energy and it is real. It is not false. So that point is emphasized here. Now we move on to the verses. We are in chapter 1, observing the armies. We finished text number 14, where for the first time, we find that Lord Krishna and Arjuna has entered the battlefield. After text number 14, we move on to text number 15. And now, after Bhishma Deva blows the conch shell, we see that Madhava and Arjuna are coming in the chariot in a splendid chariot. And now we see that text number 15. Panchajanyam Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Poundram Dadmo Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrakodara. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his Devadatta. Bhima, the voracious eater, the performer of Herculean task, blew his terrific conch shell called Poundra. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ho. Lord Krishna is referred to as Rishikesha in this verse because he is the owner of all the senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him. And therefore, the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalist cannot account for the senses of the living entities. The impersonalist, therefore, are always anxious to describe all the living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the heart of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of surrender of the living entity. And in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls his senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name, Rishikesha. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudana because he killed the demon by the name of Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudeva because he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. His name is Devaki Nandana because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashodanandana because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavan. His name is Parthasarathi because he worked as a charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Rishikesha because he gave direction to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrakodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks, such as killing the demon Hidamba. So the particular types of conch shell blown by different personalities on the side of Pandavas, beginning with the Lord, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was a message announced by the sound of the conch shell. That was verse number 15. Again, we find hints of the forthcoming victory for Pandavas. Srila Vyasadeva has put in hints in each verses. Here it says Rishikesha. Why Lord is called as Rishikesha is explained here, because Rishikesha means the one who controls the senses, and in this particular context Lord Krishna is controlling the senses of Arjuna, and he controls everybody's senses. In this particular moment, he's controlling Arjuna's senses, therefore, he's called Rishikesha. Devadattam Dhananjaya. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya. Throughout Gita, we find that Krishna and Arjuna are referred to by different synonyms or different names according to the context of that particular verse. In this particular verse, Lord is Rishikesha and Arjuna is Dhananjaya. Why Dhananjaya? Because Arjuna, when his brother Yudhishthira was performing the Rajasuya Yagya, Arjuna collected huge amount of wealth which was necessary for performing Rajasuya Yagya. So he's called Dhananjaya. So Arjuna's Shankh is called Devadattam, and Rishikesha Krishna's Shankh is Panchajanyam. And Bhima's Shankh, Bhima is called Vrikodara. Vrikodara means the one who eats voraciously. Why does he eat voraciously? Because he has a huge appetite, and because of that he has huge strength. He performs Herculean task. Therefore he has to have that much of a voracious appetite. So he is called Vrikodara, and his Shankh is called Pondram. So here all the it is that's the conch shell of Lord Krishna and Arjuna is referred to as transcendental, because they are not ordinary, they're transcendental, and that's a hint for the reader to understand that there is a, and he's also referred to as Madhava, which means that the goddess of husband of goddess of fortune. So these are the hint that their side is going to be victorious in the forthcoming battle. And with that, I will stop today's video. Hope that you understood something and you benefited in some way. Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. Myself Chaitanya Rupini Devi Dasi, your servant in Krishna Consciousness. Please feel to comment below, and if you like the video, give a thumbs up and feel free to share it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so far, and hit the bell icon. So see you next time. Stay tuned, and the war is about to begin. Next video will be verse number 16 to 18, where we know about the different conch shells of the different warriors. Hare Krishna.